from the University of Toronto in 1997, and I had the great fortune to meet him in 2004 while he was practicing in New Hamburg and Wellesley, Ontario. Well, Wellesley is a population of, well, not many, and it is a strong Mennonite community where the dental parking lot was set up to accommodate horse and buggy for their patients. So even in this climate, Dr. Kwek and his partner were able to grow a thriving dental practice, which quickly became a strong dental implant practice as well. Today, Dr. Kwek will be focusing on making the numbers work, but I do know his first focus is always on patient care and incorporating staff in his success. Dr. Kwek's numbers have worked for a long time, but when you walk into his office, the greatest success is the light, comfortable feeling you get from the patients and his staff. He believes you can be a great clinician that offers clinical excellence and be a good business owner. Dr. Kwek is a great clinician, he's a great business owner, and he's an even better friend. He still practices in New Hamburg and is the co-founder of Dentistry Academy. He's happily married to Nicole, who is also a dental practitioner. He has 2 fabulous boys and resides in Cambridge, Ontario. Again, it's such a pleasure to introduce Dr. Kwek.
Thanks, Elaine, for the kind words as usual. And you've always been a great friend, and just love having you around. And my success, a lot of it, guys, is because of the relationships that you build with people around you. And Elaine is definitely one of the people in my life that's helped me to get to where I am. So Elaine, thank you so much. All right, so I guess let's get started, guys. We have an hour, and I know you guys are tired of webinars. I mean, we all are. And I want to talk about something that hopefully we can take to our practices, and let's just do things a little more practically. Okay, I want to talk about how do we make the numbers work for our practices. And it might be a little bit of a different take, but it's just to hopefully help you guys look at things a little differently. Okay. All right, so let's start. In Ontario and most of Canada, the average practice overhead is about 63%. And an efficient office is in the low 50s. So I want to quickly describe my office to you guys. We pay our staff really well. Okay, in the top percentage. We really have no turnover of staff. We discount about at least $1,000 a day of courtesy to patients, and yet our sundries are 50% higher than the average. But when you put it all together, my overhead is actually in the low 40s. And if we actually add the discounts and we put the fees, the current fee guide, the overhead is actually in the mid 30s. Okay, guys, this is not to show off. It's not to impress you. It's not to wow you. That's not the point at all. But it's to impress upon you that the numbers are possible. But the question is how? So how is this possible? So plain and simple, guys, this is the answer. Success is the uncommon application of common knowledge. Everything I want to share with you guys today, the great thing is that you all know the answers. It's just tucked in the back of your mind somewhere. But I want to be able to bring it to the forefront today and have you guys look at things in a way that if you apply that knowledge in a different way, all of a sudden things will change for you in a significantly different situation, okay? Guys, I was listening to Dr. Andre Pellerin a couple days ago, and he said something exactly how I feel. I want to say it too. I'm just the average dentist. Okay, I'm no different than anybody in the room. But the way that I figure things out, when you apply that same common knowledge, it makes everything so much different. Okay, so again, everybody in this room can do the same thing. So how do we think as dentists? We're all taught to think a certain way from school and outside of school. But I challenge you today that maybe there's a different way of looking at things. It's all about perspective. I want to make a few assumptions today. I want to say the average dentist bills $400 an hour. Let's say we work 4 days a week. And let's just say we take it a step further. We take 12 weeks holidays a year. Okay, nobody does that in general. And that's a lot of time. And right now we haven't even been off 12 weeks, right? But I want to use these numbers as a conservative way of measuring things for the projections that I want to show you for the presentation, okay? So with regards to overhead, how do we minimize it, right? How do we think? Well, we think about, we have to cut costs. And if we work hard in cutting costs, and let's say we have $1 million practice, we're probably going to be able to put back in our pockets maybe up to $30,000, okay, if we worked hard at it. That's not bad. But how should we think? Instead of focusing on cutting costs, the better way of looking at it is to increase our efficiencies. And if we know how to increase our efficiencies the right way, we're not decreasing overhead by 1 to 3%. We're decreasing it by a much bigger number. So just imagine the $1 million practice, all of a sudden, you're putting $150,000 back into your pocket that you never had before. Now that's powerful. Today we want to push the reset button. right? All along with this whole COVID thing, I mean, we have to change a lot of things, unfortunately. I'm going to ask you to open your minds to a different way of looking at things, just so that, you know, just put your egos aside, just open, just humor me, okay, just for the next hour. And maybe you'll hopefully look at things in the way that I see it too. If we look at things in one way, we see Prince William here. All of a sudden we think the same thing. We think he's not too happy, right? But if we all of a sudden take a look at things from a different angle, our perspective changes. Usually I talk about a full day on how do you maximize clinical efficiency. Today I'm going to talk about this for the next 20 minutes. So I'm touching the tip of the iceberg. But it's not what you think it is. It's not about going faster. So think about this in your practices. We all think we're pretty quick with our assistants, but are we? So ask yourself this question. Do you ever have to wait or dictate steps during your procedure? So do you ever have to ask your assistant for etch or bond or to cure or to get a composite? Do you ever have to wait for your assistant to go and put the matrix band together, or wait for him or her to go and find the right kind of wedge or to find the instrument you need? Of course we do. This is what we do all the time, right? But how do we think? After doing this 100, 200, 500 times, and we're still dictating steps, we're still waiting for our assistants to get things, we think, you know what, I guess my assistant will never get it. I guess he or she is never going to be able to just memorize the steps, or just never going to understand what we're doing. But how should we think? The way we need to think is that maybe it's not our assistant's fault. Maybe it's actually us. Kind of crazy, right? But maybe this is true. So with every problem, there's always a solution. And I find the simplest solution is the most effective. So the simplest solution to this issue of our assistants is we have to explain the whys. Every single thing that we do, every single step of every procedure, we have to explain why we do it for every single thing, every step of the way. Because once you explain the whys, guess what? Your assistant all of a sudden will start to get it. For example, let's just say you do a 1/6 MO, okay? And you prep the tooth, and then you basically say to your assistant, okay, so this is the band I need after I prep the tooth. I need a certain band or a certain, sectional matrix. Why? Because I want to be able to adapt it to the adjacent tooth, to be able to get the right contour, right contact. After I put the band on, I want this type of wedge. I want this color wedge or this size of wedge. Why? Because I want to be able to put it in the right embrasure space. After I put the wedge in, I use this burnisher, and I use this end of this burnisher. Why? Because I want to adapt it to the contact to make it nice and tight, and so on and so forth. And so what happens is that when you explain the whys, when you do this over and over again, your assistant, once he or she understands the whys, guess what, guys? They'll be ahead of you every step of the way. Let's say you're doing a 4/6 buccal pit, right? And your assistant, guess what? They put enough bond in the well to bond every single tooth in the mouth, right? This is what we see all the time. All we need is this much material. And if your assistant dispensing it, half the tooth comes out, right? There's so much waste. And I know that, if we have associates, our associates, you know what, they're worried about just getting the job done. They don't really think about the waste per se in that to the way that owners do. But as owners, when we assistants are wasting material, we cringe and we get upset inside. And we try to let them know, guys, don't waste material, but then how are they supposed to know? They just dispense, they're trying to be in a rush, they're trying to be efficient, right? So what's the solution? This is really a simple way of looking at things is, guys, share your patient. I know we're all used to hogging the patient to ourselves. We all want to see, but the thing is that if we don't share our patient with our assistants, then guess what? They can't see. But if we share our patient, not only do we save our backs, we save our assistants' backs, but they can also see what's going on. So take a look at this example. If you're doing a 1/6 occlusal and the 1/6 occlusal turns into a 1/6 MO, right? Guess what? Your assistant can see, and so they know exactly what to do next. And so because your assistant also understands the whys, they're going to grab the band you need. They're going to grab the wedge you need. They're going to grab the burnisher you need. Why? Because they get it and they see it and they understand. We see this all the time. We're doing procedures, and the next thing you know, the system's grabbing everything. They're trying to be efficient. They're starting to get things to the stereo center, and unfortunately, things get thrown out. We throw out clamps and bands and this and that. And our procedure, let's say it's $200. Guess what? It turns a lot more expensive because our numbers go up, our overhead goes up. So how do we prevent this from happening, right? Once again, we talk about a simple solution. There's always a simple solution. We have to create systems. Unfortunately, we're going to be doing a lot of new systems, creating a lot of new protocols for, because of COVID, which is unfortunate, but it's the reality. So how do we create simple systems for every single thing we do in our office? Well, think about this. For every clinical thing we do, whether or not setting up the op or taking it down or figuring out how do we handle the tray or how do we throw the garbage out, every single thing there's a system. And if you create simple systems for every single part of your office, which we have to do anyways, when you create the systems, systematizing things creates consistency, and consistency creates efficiency. So that's how you need to look at it. So when you talk about maximizing efficiency, it's talking about explaining the whys. When our assistant understands the whys, they're going to be ahead of us. When our assistant can see the patient, they know they're never going to, they're going to maximize, or they're going to minimize waste. And they'll also understand the why, so they'll be ahead of you as well. And creating simple systems as well. But finally, it's something called six-handed dentistry. So what is that? So six-handed dentistry is a term that I coined a number of years ago. It's not that you have two assistants helping you at the same time. I mean, that would be fantastic, but it's not that. Six-handed dentistry is where you actually have one assistant holding enough in his or her hands like they're two people. So the idea is this: you're never having a pause, okay? You're never waiting for your assistant. You're never waiting for your assistant to put something down to grab the next thing. And we all know this. They put the curing light down to go and grab the composite, or they put the composite down to grab the curing light. So every time you wait, there's a pause. There's time that's being spent. If anything, your assistant's waiting for you. So what happens is that you have a huge time savings if you can understand how to perform six-handed dentistry. So when you're working, your eyes are never leaving the treatment site. You're looking at the patient's mouth the entire time. You're never looking up. You're never grabbing anything. Your assistant's putting into your hands what you need in the right direction. For example, in this case, my assistant's putting the PFI in my hand. She's putting in my hand in the right direction, so I don't have to flip the instrument around. If I flip it around, guess what? I'm spending that 1 to 2 seconds to flip it around. When she gives me the composite gun, she's putting it into my hand, but the compule of the composite gun is turned in the right direction depending on the quad I'm working in. Because if I have to turn my compule, it's the same thing. I spend a couple seconds to turn it. And every time I take the time to do something, that's time that adds up over and over and over again. Even when I'm not sure what I need, or my assistant's really not sure what's next, guess what? There's options. The options are given to me right at that time. Whether or not I'm having a flowable or a bulk flow flowable or my final composite, guess what? Everything's right there. She doesn't have to put something down to grab the next thing, because that's time. When I'm doing surgery, whether or not I need the next elevator up or I need the forceps, guess what? Everything's right there and ready to go, because there's no time to put something down to grab the next thing. So let's quantify this. Okay, so how many steps are involved when we do a simple filling? 100, 200, 300, 500. I mean, guys, there's a lot of steps. Every single thing we do, there's a step. So let's say we prep for 5 seconds, take a look with the mirror, air dry, all that right there, there's 3 steps. And so we do this over and over again. There's literally hundreds of steps to do something so simple. Let's make sense out of this. Let's say you do a 1/6 MO, it takes you half an hour. And let's say you bill $200, just to keep things, nice and round in terms of numbers. So we talked about the average dentist billing $400 an hour. That's where this number comes from, okay? And let's just say that we're being conservative and there's 100 steps you're doing to do a simple filling. And let's just say that every transition or pause between steps is 2 to 3 seconds. So your assistant's putting something down to grab the next thing. That's a couple seconds. Or your assistant gives you the instrument, you have to flip it around. That's a couple seconds. You're moving the headlight. That's a few seconds. So everything is a couple seconds. But meanwhile, you haven't thought about when your assistant has to make the matrix span or has to get it from the drawer. That's 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Your assistant has to leave the room to get an instrument you don't have. Another 30 seconds, 45 seconds. So I'm saying the average is 2 to 3 seconds, which is very conservative with 100 steps only, okay? So which means in a half an hour appointment, you've lost 4 minutes because you were pausing, you were waiting, which translates into $55 an hour based on that $400 an hour rule, okay? So based on the average work week of, let's say 4 days a week, and let's say you're taking 12 weeks of holidays, guys, 12 weeks, which is a number that most of us aren't even touching at all. If you put the numbers in the equation, that's over $62,000. Why? Because you waited. Okay, it's pretty crazy. Let's talk about something different. To freeze or not to freeze? So that's the question. So as dentists, how do we think? Right? We're all taught to freeze. That's what we do. Right? But how should we think? Many of us don't realize it, but there's so many procedures you can do without the need for local anesthetic. Some of us have figured out to some degree, a lot of us haven't, and that's okay. But let me share with you this. And I want to go over with you for everything on my list here. You could probably do this 95% of the time to never have to freeze if you know how to do this properly. Okay, I'm not going to be explaining technique here. I'm not saying you start going out and drilling with a high speed. That's not it at all. But it's to say that this is possible. So when you talk about abrasions, attrition, root caries, attrition, wear facets, you can prep, you don't need to freeze. Seniors, you can remove amalgam, composite, prep, mild, moderate decay. Kids, anyone under 5.5 years old, you can pretty much prep to the nerve, you never have to freeze. Again, I'm not talking about technique here, guys. I'm saying that it's possible. Endo-treated teeth, posts, cores, fillings, crowns, you don't need to freeze. Fractured teeth. If someone is asymptomatic, you can put pins in there, build it up, no freezing necessary. Crown inserts. I mean, these are all things you can do without freezing. And what happens is that your patients, they'll love you because it's a huge practice builder. They're going to say, this is fantastic. Next thing you know, more people come into your office. You never froze them, you never hurt them. Yes, fantastic. You save on cost, you save on the anesthetic. But the big thing is that you're actually saving time. The time is over and over again. That's what we want to focus on. It's all about efficiencies. So let's make sense about this again. So what do? We freeze our patient, we give a block, we give an infiltration. Right? What do? We chat with the patient, might go out, talk to our staff, have check a hygiene patient, we come back in, and they're ready to go. Or sometimes, guess what? We give another block because the first one didn't take effect. So I'd probably say on average, we're waiting 5 to 10 minutes. And that's a pretty average number for all of us. So based on the average production per hour, we're losing about $50 a patient because we have to wait for the anesthetic to work, right? That's pretty common. So let's say you didn't freeze 2 times a day. And you took, again, 12 weeks holidays off. So that quantifies into $16,000 a year. That's a pretty big number back in your pocket. But let me kind of give you a perspective on things. In my typical day, my average day, again, pre-COVID, I would see 20 to 25 patients a day. And I'd probably say on average, 50% I would not have to freeze. So if you take your 2 procedures a day, and let's say it was 4 or 6 or maybe 8, just to be conservative again, that's $16,000. Guess what, guys? It adds up. It's a significant number that you can put back into your pocket. Why? Because you save time. We all know that when we take care of multiple teeth, the amount of time that we book let's say doing 2 separate teeth at the same time, it takes less time to do 2 teeth compared to if we booked 2 separate teeth and 2 separate appointments, right? That's pretty reasonable to say. But let's say we're talking about filling 2 teeth. Let's look at the picture on the right here. Did you know that you can actually fill 2 teeth for the same time that it takes you to fill 1 tooth? And a lot of us don't think this way. So think about this. Let's say, for example, if I'm filling tooth number 1-4, guess what? My assistant is curing tooth 2-4. And then we switch. Then I fill the 2-4 and my assistant will cure the 1-4. So we're not actually spending any more time. Nobody's waiting. I'm waiting anyway for my assistant to cure, so I might as well do something else. So we need to think a little bit outside the box and use that time that we have. It's more efficient. So for example, we do these 2 fillings. Guess what? Most of us, we do it in this time frame. Similarly, quad 2, it takes 30 to 60 minutes, right? But what if I said you can do all 4 fillings in the same time that it takes you to do 2? Can it be done? Of course it can. You just have to understand how to use time without compromising on quality. Guys, quality, first and foremost, has to be their number 1 with ethical dentistry. That's something that I always have to believe in. And everyone here, hopefully you guys are all following the same principles. But it's not about going faster. It's about using time to its greatest advantage. So when we talk about restoring multiple teeth, I mean, most of us, I would say that we're doing this at least 2-3 times a day at the minimum, meaning that we're restoring more than 1 tooth. If you know how to use time, very conservatively, you can save an additional 10 minutes per tooth without question. So you're adding or saving 30 minutes a day. So again, you quantify it over the course of a year with 12 weeks holidays. And guess what, guys? You're adding back 32 grand in your pocket. Why? Because you understand the concept of saving time. Let's talk about something different. A lot of us were stressed out, we think about hiring staff, and a lot of us don't know when to hire more staff because we think more staff, well, how am I going to pay for that? Because it's just more money. I'm not making any more. So let's talk about hiring a second assistant for those of us who actually don't have 2. And I don't mean a floater. I mean a second assistant with you all at the same time. Once again, pre-COVID, most of us will see 13 patients a day, just to give you a number. The turnover time, the turnover on operatory is 5 minutes. So when you have that second assistant, you're actually saving 50% of that time because you're going to turn over in half the time. So you're saving 2.5 minutes, which means that you're saving 30 minutes a day, which is $200, which basically pays for your assistant. So it's a wash, which is great. You're not paying anymore, but yet you're not losing any more money. And you're not making any more either. But what you're doing is you're saving your first assistants back. And you're not stressing him or her out as much, which is fantastic. So let's say now you have 2 operatories. You have 2 operatories. Now you have no turnover time. Now you've actually gained 5 minutes. Okay? So when you gain 5 minutes per patient, you gain an hour a day, which means you've made another $400 because you have an extra hour. So you've paid your assistant $200. Guess what, guys? You've made an additional $200 a day, which means that over the course of the year, with 12 weeks holidays, that's another $32,000 back in your pocket. Let's take another side step. Let's talk about technology. And I know that all of us, you know what, we don't want to spend any money. We don't want to think about technology. But you know what, when the time is right, I want you to look at things a little bit differently. The problem with technology is that, you know what, guys, it costs a lot of money. And none of us want to really spend it. So let's try to make sense out of this for everybody. The rule of ROI, return on investment. If you want to buy technology, you need to pay for it in less than 3 to 5 years. If it takes you more than 5 years, guess what? It's either costs too much or you're not using it properly. So let's talk about something that we all are really aware of, digital x-rays. Most of us have this in our offices. A lot of us have gone through the process of going from analog to digital. Some of us only know digital. And very few of us still have analog, you know what, and that's okay. But for those of us who went through the process of going from analog to digital, how did we think? Did we think that it was a great investment? No, it didn't. We thought, oh my gosh, I'm spending 20 grand to upgrade. That's a lot of money to spend for what? I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking the same number of x-rays. Yeah, it might be cooler, but you know what? I'm not making any more money. Right? That's how should we think? So I want to show you guys a different way of looking at things using numbers. Let's say you take 10 x-rays a day for your whole office. That's a very, very low number. And all of us can say that's a very conservative number. And let's just say we're also going to be saving 1 minute each. We all know we're saving like 4 minutes, right? But let's just call it 1, just for this purpose of being conservative. So you're saving 10 minutes a day. So when you quantify it over the week, 4 days a week, with 12 weeks holidays, that's almost 27 hours a year. Once again, let's quantify this. Multiplied by the dollar per hour, 10,600. So within 2 years, guess what? You've paid everything off, right? It's less than 3 to 5 years. And guess what, guys? Every year thereafter, you're making this much more money. Why? Because you saved time. But once again, I'm using very conservative numbers. We take more than 10 x-rays a day, and we're definitely saving more than 1 minute. So in reality, we pretty much paid our entire system off in less than a year. And every year thereafter, we're making an additional 20 grand plus per year because we have time and we have technology. Let's talk about something different. Let's talk about something where it costs a lot more. It's not 20 grand, it's 120 grand. And let's talk about the high end of things, cone beams. Same rule of ROI. So I want to make a few assumptions. Number one is that you don't have 1,500 patients. You don't have 1,000 patients. Let's assume that every single one of us works in Toronto or Vancouver, and we only have 700. Okay, so I want to show everybody how, even though we may work in a very difficult area of the population because you don't have that ratio, that everybody can still afford it. I think it's probably average to take a pan every 5 years. So which means that based on the current value of the pans, this is what we're charging in 5 years for pans. Which means that if you deduct the 2 or subtract the 2, the cone beam usage is the difference. Okay, so how do we pay for the cone beams? Well, we have to take cone beams, right? So the fee is $300 to $400, depending on the size of the volume you want to take. And we have to interpret it, whether or not we want to do it ourselves, so we don't have to pay it out, or whether or not we want to have a radiologist or a company like Canary do it. By all means, go for it. So you're netting about $250 a cone beam. That's the idea. So how many cone beams do we need to take in 5 years? Well, just under 300. And so if we're taking under 300, that's basically just 1 a week. Okay, so 1 a week. So again, how do we think? So as dentists, we think that if we have cone beams, guess what? We're doing implants, right? It's obvious. But how should we think? We need to think that every single person in this audience, in this room, should and could afford a cone beam, because we don't need to place implants to have a cone beam. There's so many other things. Think about this, guys. For lesions, how many times do we see lesions on a PA or pan? We see it all the time. Yes, we see the mesodistal dimension, but we don't see the buccolingual dimension. We don't see where it is relative to where the jaw is. We don't know where it is. Cone beams are new technology that's 3D. It's not 2D. There's so much more information for you. Surgery. I cannot emphasize enough to when I teach surgery to the younger dentists or any dentist in general, how much seeing the curvature of the root will actually affect how and where you apply the forces. Right? Surgery is key, and cone beams are huge. If you have a cone beam, take it to understand how to be able to do surgery a lot more effectively. Cracked teeth. A lot of times we have patients that bite down and you think it's cracked. A cone beam, will it help us to discern whether or not a tooth is cracked? It's definitely possible. It's the most accurate way of finding out. And guess what? You can actually find or have a possible treatment plan, whether or not you're saving or removing that tooth. TMJ, whether or not patients are in pain from the joints, muscles, what have you, whether or not you're treating that patient yourself or not, it's more information for you, your patient, and whoever you might be referring that patient to. Position of structures, obviously. The big thing too is the endo treatment. Just imagine knowing how many canals you have, or the curvature of the canal, so you know exactly where to access the canals and where the curvature of the nerves are going to be before you even start. Just imagine that. It's incredible. Orthodontics, we're using cone beams more and more, and also for airway. But for the bread and butter of for every single dentist, all of us see this every day. And we work on this every day. So the question is this: do you see this once a week? Oh my gosh, guys, we see this at least once or twice a day. We all know this. So even if you're doing this or seeing this once a week, you may return your investment for 700 people. Okay, so that's a no-brainer to me. You paid it under 5 years. Let's take a different perspective. Just imagine if you had a cone beam in your neighboring office around you didn't. You know what? Have your colleagues refer you cone beams. So instead of your patients having to go down, instead of them having to go across town, they can basically just drive down the street. Even if you had 5 colleagues that referred to you 1 cone beam each, you've paid your cone beam off in less than half the time. And then guess what, guys? Every year thereafter, you've made that much more money because you have technology. Let's take it one step further. A lot of us before COVID were thinking about, okay, you know what, scanners and mills and the whole bit, yeah, and now, we're probably not thinking that same way anymore. But guess what? Let's say you wanted to buy all of this. Okay, all of this piece of equipment costs over $300,000, not cheap. But in terms of numbers, how do we make sense out of this? And usually I speak for a couple hours on this with a good friend and partner, Dr. Jeff Sumner. But today I'm going to just show you the numbers right off the bat. If you were the average dentist billing $400 an hour and doing the average number of crowns, 10 crowns a month, and if you took 5 cone beams a month, you paid for everything in under 4 years. Okay, those are the numbers, that's the math. And I'm not saying, so let's say for example, you talk about your crowns. I'm not saying the fees that you charge, the original crown fee that you would charge, I'm not including that in terms of paying this off. I'm talking about the additional fees. The additional fees you charge to be able to have that lab component, plus the time that you save. That profit, that's what pays off everything in 4 years. Okay, so something that maybe you haven't heard of before, but that's the math. So based on that hypothetical office I was talking about, using very conservative numbers. And again, I just touched the tip of the iceberg, guys. I haven't gone into this in any detail. If you start adding numbers into the equation, all of a sudden that hypothetical office, you've added $340,000 because you understood how to save time. You're not going any faster, you're just saving time. So this office, let's say you had a 60% overhead to start with. At the end of the day, by applying these efficiency rules, you brought to under 50%. So just to put it in perspective again, 50% is a number that most offices will never see in their lifetime. It's a number that most people can't hit. And let's just say that you were to say, okay, you know what? I want to apply these rules, but let's just say you're only going to be half as efficient. You can only do it half the amount of time. And again, I'm using very conservative numbers, but let's say you do it in half. You cut it by 50%. Your overhead is now down to 53%. Remember that one slide I showed you guys in the beginning? The efficient office is 52%. Well, guess what? You've hit it. And it's all you've done is to understand the concept of time. We haven't talked about how do we increase our hygiene numbers? How do we increase and maximize our hygiene revenue production? We didn't talk about how to actually be faster. Being faster is a whole nother thing all by itself. We didn't talk about maximizing treatment that stays in your office. Whether or not you're doing it, an associate's doing it, or you're getting a specialist to come in and do it. We haven't talked about cutting costs. And we haven't talked about maximizing our case acceptance, because if you start adding all these back into the equation, guys, that number is really going to drop. So we talked about clinical efficiencies, or again, the tip of the iceberg. I want to touch quickly on something else. Some of you probably haven't heard it before. It's called efficient continuing education. So what is that? So efficient continuing education, I'd probably say we all want to do the same thing, right? We all want to learn as much as we can, but we want to learn in the shortest amount of time, because we don't want to take course after course after course. I mean, that's just a lot of wasted time. But how do we learn the most in the least amount of time? But at the end of the day, we want to be able to translate it right into our chairs and be able to start producing, be able to do the procedures right away and having confidence, right? That's what we all want. So how do we do this? We have to figure out what we want to offer to our patients, or what we want to figure out for ourselves, right? Once again, how do we think? How do we think about continuing education? Let's say, for example, you want to learn how to take out wisdom teeth, just so we can all have the same thought in our head. We want to learn how to take out wisdom teeth. So how do we think about learning? Well, trial and error. I mean, this is probably what all of us do. Probably doesn't work so well with wisdom teeth, and a lot of us start referring it back to the specialist, or we get gun shy and we're like, okay, that's it. No, I'm not doing it anymore. And that's why a lot of us shy away from things. We ask our colleagues for tips and tricks. We take courses and lectures. We're sitting in a room of 100, 200, 300 people. We watch the slides. We see a video or two. That's what we do. Or we go online. We check out videos online, right? That's a pretty big thing we all do. But as we all know, watching a video online and actually translating into your patient in the chair are two totally different things. It's not the same. Right now, we're doing Zoom webinars. You know what? It's great for what it is. But to take a wisdom tooth, yeah, you're not doing it. When we get back to our practices, hopefully we can get back out there and we take hands-on courses, and you're in a room of 30, 40, 50 people. You might work on some cadavers or some pig jaws, and you may see a patient at the end of the day, right? And that's a pretty typical thing. So what's the cost versus benefit of these things? So how should we think? Maybe there's another way of looking at things. Once again, we talk about simple solutions. Sometimes the simplest solution of what we think is the easiest way of learning, unfortunately, may not be that readily available, or we don't see it that often. For those of us who have actually learned in small groups, you understand how much more you can actually learn and how much more you progress in a short time, especially when it's a hands-on course. What's even simpler is this. Shadow somebody, you guys. Go and find out who is doing what you want to learn, whether or not someone more experienced than you, or shadow a specialist. That way you can ask them the questions, or they can answer you the questions right in front of the patient, if that's okay with them. And you can actually watch the workflow. Watch your workflow with their assistants, see how things are being done, so you can translate that back in your chair, right? But the most efficient way of learning, in my opinion, is mentorship or coaching. So let me give you an example. Let's say we talk about wisdom teeth again. And let me just kind of put an idea in your head. Let's say you're at your office. And let's say you have someone that comes into your office, and you have a full day of patients that are strategically lined up to take out wisdom teeth. Let's say you have 5 cases. Your first case is going to be the most difficult thing that you can do by yourself. And that's your first case. And every other case from that point on is put in a certain sequence. So by the end of the day, you've taken out the most complicated thing that you never thought you could touch in your life. And at the end of the day, you've had the experience to take everything out. And also you've gained the confidence to take everything out. Question is, what's your time worth? Let's compare the two things. Sitting in a room of 100 people or more versus a one-on-one. Obviously, one is way more practical. You're learning in one day what let's say you learn in 4 or 5 days, let's say didactically. This is where it throws everybody off. The cost. Let's talk about extremes. Let's say it costs you $10,000 to do one day. Everyone here is going to say, you know what, I'd rather save $8 grand. Instead of paying 10, I'd rather spend 2, right? Makes sense. That's how we think. But we forget that the cost to take time off, on one hand, we're taking 4 days off. So let's say you're losing 20 grand. But on the mentorship side, remember guys, you're sitting in your office with your patients. You're charging while you're taking the wisdom teeth out. So you've actually made $5,000. So when you compare the two, man, I don't know about you guys, but I'd rather spend 5 grand instead of 20 something, right? And learn way more. But even if you're actually spending the same amount of money at the end of the day, you're spending the same amount of money, or even if you're spending a little bit more with mentorship, which is going to give you the confidence the following day to be able to actually have you start producing and start treating your patients with confidence. Mentorship, in my opinion, hands down, is the most effective and the most efficient way of learning CE. Food for thought. Okay, guys? All right, let's get into the other section of this. We
Dr.
can
Kwek,
all have the best hands in the world. Yes?
I have a couple questions I think we should address before we move on to the next section.
Okay.
First one is, I meant to interject before the technology section. So this is, going forward, do you feel it will be more difficult to do multiple quadrant dentistry at the same time because you should be using rubber dam to decrease aerosols?
Do I think it would be more difficult? No. If you know how to put rubber dam on, you can put rubber dam on all 4 quads at the same time, if you know how.
Okay.
So that's something, again, it's something that we've not taught to do, but if you know how to do it, you can do multiple quadrants all at the same time. Do I think that it makes sense to do 4 quadrants at the same time? I think that in the next little bit, it's not ideal at all, but I think for what we might need to do, it may be our new norm for the short term, hopefully. But in terms of 4 quads, I mean, no one wants to put our patients through that. But at the same time, we want to be able to learn how to maximize doing multiple quads in general.
Okay, thank you. Next question. When you use, when do you use anesthetics? Do you use a buffered solution to save time?
I mean, good question. I mean, I personally don't. I know that some people, they give a block with lidocaine and then oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart here, and they use carbocaine afterwards. I don't. Usually I use like articaine. And just to kind of give you an idea, if I'm doing anything in the lower from the 5 forward, premolars forward, I'll always use infiltration because the onset's so much faster. And if I'm doing a block, I'll always give 2 carpals right off the bat instead of 1. So I will always hit it pretty much right off the bat. Because if I just do 1, more than likely I'm coming back and giving a second block. So that way I don't waste time. If I'm taking a tooth out on the back, sometimes I'll block, and a lot of times I'll infiltrate right away into the site, and I'll start right away. So it all depends on there's so many different ways of doing it. But in general, if you have a more, let's say, not faster acting, if you have an anesthetic that's like articaine, that is more profound right away, I find that you can start pretty much right away. But a lot of times if I'm combining treatment where you're combining, let's say I'm doing a block, but at the same time you can do other treatment where you don't have to freeze, I'll give the block or give the anesthetic, and right away I'll start working on the patient of the areas that you don't have to be frozen. So you can start prepping right away. And then you can prep the other teeth 5-10 minutes later because now they're frozen. So it's all about using your time while you're waiting.
Okay, perfect. And just one more question from Eddie. So what I hear is that the overhead decreases because your revenue is increasing within the same period where overhead was measured. Exactly.
So the thing is that everybody always thinks about, I want to cut costs by decreasing my cost of my anesthetic. I want to shop around, and the amount of time you spend to save $1 here, $5 there. I mean, that's great and all, and you can do that at the same time. But if you understand how to combine the treatment or be able to save your time, your production goes way up, and the production totally offsets. So even with PPE, we're all stressed about PPE, and I get it. And even the cost of PPE, yes, it's going to add to our bottom line. But let's say you're spending $30 in PPE, let's say for one patient, which is probably on the higher side, but let's just say it's $30. But let's say you can actually increase the revenue by like $60 in the same amount of time, right? You're already ahead if you understand how to use that time. But $60 again, $60 is a pretty low number. If you're gaining a unit of time and you can actually, let's say, increase it by $100 or $200. I mean, it's possible. And all of a sudden that $30 is minimal. Whereas you have to look at the relative weight of what each of those things are. And so even though, yes, we all are focused on cost and it's going up, I think we all have to kind of look at things from a different angle and say, you know what, let's stop stressing about the cost of things. Let's start focusing on what we can do to offset it in a way that's going to totally offset it by making more money without having to worry about the increase of cost. Because if you focus on increasing in cost, you're going to be stressed out like everybody else. So you always have to look at the positive of what you can do based on what you have to work with.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Kwek. That's all for now.
Okay. All right, guys. So the last part, like I said, we all may have fantastic hands, and we may have the most efficient way of doing things, but it doesn't mean that we're going to have a patient in our chair, right? And it doesn't, and we all need to have patients in our chairs, and we all need to have patients that keep coming back into our chairs over and over and over again. So the final part of this, in terms of our foundations, is not about our hands or dentistry. It's all about people. And I know that a lot of people think, it's a lot about fluff. When you talk about relationships, a lot of fluff. And maybe it could be. But for those of us who don't understand this, some of these points are actually, common sense, but at the same time, it really does work if you understand how to create relationships. Success. If we think about the people in your lives and think about those who've been successful around you. Let's say from a financial point. Obviously there's so many different ways of defining it. But if we think about financial success, what is the common denominator? What is the same thing that everybody has who's successful around us? What do they all do? They're all great with people. If you think about it, that's the common denominator. So I believe in that. Success is relationship based. It truly is. I want you guys to think about this. Let's say you're at a party. You're at a party, you don't know anybody in the room, and you mingle through the evening, and at the end of the day, there's a couple people that stand out to you in a great way. So what is it about them that actually creates that great first impression? Or it gives you that great long-lasting impression? What is it? Is it the way they look? Is it their hair, their clothes, the way they put themselves together? Their eye contact? Do they look at you and do they seem interested in having that eye contact with you? Do they ask you a lot of questions about you? Are they engaged with you? Are they interested in what you have to say? How's their attitude, their personality, their energy? Is it positive? When people have positive energies, guess what, guys? It's contagious. Are they relaxed? Are they confident? Does that make you feel good around them? Their sense of humor, does that coincide with yours? It's amazing how your eyes, your facial expressions, your smile, your hand, your position, your body gestures, all those things make a difference when someone stands out in a good way or not. Obviously, you see which person here is more approachable. There's so many qualities that you look for, right? So what are the qualities that make somebody stand out? So at the end of the day, when you look at yourself, and if you also want to stand out, guess what, guys? You also have to be that person. You need to be that person that stands out. You need to be that person that draws people in, right? Emulate what you like, and you have to be that person as well. So when you translate that to your patients, it's the same thing. You have to personalize every appointment. The point is that yes, there's a dentist-patient relationship, and yes, legally, sure. But the point is that we all have to make friends with our patients. That's really what the key is. We're not taught that, but guess what? This is what you have to do to make it work. With kids in your chair, guess what? You have to act like a kid. With adolescents, yeah, they're a little strange. I have 2 teenagers too. You have to speak their language. You have to understand what's going on in their lives and speak their language. With adults, guess what? Same thing. We have to be like that chameleon. We can't be the same way with every single person, because if you are, it's never going to work. You have to know who your audience is and be the chameleon, know how to move in and out of conversations with whoever it is in your chair. Write little notes on your charts and your computer. So for example, let's say Mrs. Jones is coming back in. You haven't seen her for 4 or 5 months. And you say, hey, Mrs. Jones, how's your husband doing? I heard he had some surgery going on. Is he feeling any better? How the grandkids, what are they doing? How's baseball? How's hockey? Did you go on that cruise? Did you go on that trip? I think you're going to Croatia, right? And guess what, guys? Even though you may not remember anything about the conversation, because you have those notes down and you bring it up, the patients are going to be like, oh my gosh, wow, I can't believe my dentist remembered that. And by having these little things, you keep this connection with your patients. They are never going to leave you. because you've done something to build a relationship with them. You've taken the time. Do you really remember everything? It's impossible. But you know what? You might. But by having these notes, it sets a certain precedent, a certain level of relationships that you built with your patients. I know we can't shake our hands with our patients anymore, but you know what? This human touch, shaking somebody's hand, putting your hand on their shoulder, all these little things add so much value. And you want to be able to be more personable, like a friend, compared to having a sterile professional relationship. So hopefully we can go back to this again. And when we do, you know what? Obviously there's a line we can't cross, but try to have that gentle touch with your patients. You know, when our friends come over, think about this. When our friends come over, let's say they come over to watch a game or they come to have dinner, we don't say bye to them when they leave. We don't say bye from the sofa. We don't say bye from the kitchen. We walk into the front door. Same thing with our operatories. We don't say bye from the operatory. Guys, don't say bye from the op. Walk your patient to the front desk. I know it takes time, but those little things, those little gestures that when you invest in your relationship with your patient, it means a lot. And they remember those things. I mean, even myself, and I've learned this from Dr. Jeff Sumner, great colleague of mine. He would actually sit in the waiting room and sit beside some patients. And other patients would be like, wow, that's amazing. He's actually sitting beside them. I want that kind of relationship. Wait, so guess what? I've also done the same thing. And it really, truly works. Take the time, invest your time into your relationships. Something I've always done for the past 23 years. And it does take time. But I've called every single patient every single day, whether I freeze them or not. And it's one of those things that when you invest the time and you create this way that patients will be like, wow, this is very different. You're never going to lose that patient. Even if you've hurt them that day, by calling them, they have a way of forgiving you. And they have a way of saying, wow, this person actually truly does care. And it makes you stand out. So guys, you know what? Try it. It does take time, but try it. Give your patients, or let's say your friends, your cell number. You know, it's something that, do they abuse it? Absolutely not. But it's one of those things that by giving that little personal touch, they know that you're standout, you're different. You're building a relationship. It's all about building relationships. If you know how to do this, it's a huge advantage to you over anybody else who's not doing the same thing. Because when you have friendships, guess what, guys? You establish trust. And with trust, especially with your patients, when you're starting to make recommendations, that's how they say yes. So how do we get patients to consistently say yes to bigger treatment cases? Okay, whether or not, and everybody's version of bigger is different. Whether or not it's 1 crown or 4 or 5 crowns or 1 implant, 6 implants, 12 implants, whether or not it's $1,000 versus a $50,000 treatment case. How do you get them to consistently say yes more than 95% of the time? Back to this again. How do we think? So as dentists, we're all taught to have consultations. We're all taught to create case presentations, right? We have a dentist-patient relationship, right? That's what we're taught to do. And we bring our patient to a room with a treatment coordinator and we sit down and actually present the treatment plan. And that's what we do. That's what we're taught to do. We build our offices around this. But what if I told you that my philosophy of doing this doesn't coincide with this? I'm not saying this doesn't work. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to knock this. I'm saying that for me, I don't believe in this because of the following reasons. When you bring your patient to a different room, you're sitting down with the treatment coordinator. The door is closed, sitting in a chair, there's a desk. All of a sudden, the tone changes. It's more intimidating. The papers come out, they're presenting the treatment plan, they're showing the numbers. Guess what, guys? It's a sales pitch. That's how I look at it. And that's how I believe that patients also see it. So how should we think? So the reason why I say this is because instead of having this consultation or this case presentation, the idea is you want to have a heart-to-heart and a friend-to-friend conversation. Okay, so conversation and presentation are 2 totally different things, 2 totally different meanings, 2 totally different outcomes. There's a difference. So what are the rules when you have a conversation? Number 1, we talk about being that person. Be that person that draws somebody in. Be that person that stands out to your patients. You want to be able to have friends. Treat them like your friends, which means that you have to put their interests first before your own 100% of the time, right? And you have to be honest, sincere, genuine with them. You have to know your audience. You have to know who's sitting in your chair. Speak their language. I know a lot of us, we want to be able to, you know, dress up in a shirt and tie, lab coat. You know what, probably with COVID, I mean, we're not dressing up at all, but hopefully we can get back to that. But in general, instead of dressing up, and even though we feel better about ourselves, guys, you know what? Dress down, dress to de-stress, because when they look at you, they want to feel more comfortable. They don't want to feel that they're in front of like an authoritative figure. Put yourself in their shoes. The conversation, in my opinion, should be in the operatory. The operatory, the chair is nice and comfy. You know what? It's like your sofa. It's like your living room that you're there. Have a conversation. You're just chilling with the patient. You're relaxed. You're just chatting with them. You're chatting with your friend, right? Bottom line is there's no pressure. When you're speaking to your patient, you're not putting pressure on them whatsoever. You're not asking them to book another appointment. You're not asking them to make a decision. You leave it in their hands. You just step away. Those are the rules. Yes, there's an art to it, but those are the basic rules. So how do you deal with your body language? Again, a lot of you might think it's a lot of fluff, but try it. It really works. So when you sit with the patient, you sit with them at their eye level, or if anything, let's say for male dentists, unless you have female patients, put your female patient at a higher level than you. And the reason why is that when you have them look down on you, they will have that power position. They'll feel better. They'll feel more confident. They'll feel more in control. That's what we want. Okay, so do it. You have to be relaxed. Have an open posture, meaning that your arms are to your sides. When your arms are to your sides, guess what? Your torso is exposed, your chest is exposed. You're more vulnerable in their eyes. You're more approachable. You look more comfortable. You want to just hang out, guys. You want to chill, laugh. You want to have fun with your patients. Yeah, you know what? Stop being stressed at the office. Let them know that this is a fun place to be too. It's okay. Have eye contact. Eye contact means that you're confident with your patients. You got to be natural. Okay, I know that a lot of us, we have this rehearsed thing that we say over and over again. You know what, guys? Try to lose it. Try to just be their friend and just talk to them. Have a conversation with them about what you think, you know, you believe that they should do based on this bigger treatment plan or case. And do have this personal touch. Again, tap on the shoulder, handshake. That personal touch takes it away from being sterile and professional. So what don't we do? Don't cross your arms. When you cross your arms, all of a sudden you have this closed body position. Okay, all of a sudden you're not approachable. It's more intimidating. And don't stand above and look down at your patient. Guess what, guys? People don't like that. It doesn't feel good. If you don't know about that, have someone stand over and look down on you. It's a weird feeling. So try to be mindful about how your body posture is. And again, don't dress up to impress yourself, even though you might feel better about yourselves. You know what? Dress down. And last but not least, don't make a presentation, because presentation and conversation are two totally different things. A lot of my colleagues, you know, they always ask, well, how the heck do you have people always say yes all the time? And especially to like, I do a lot of bigger treatment cases. You know, I'm not here to, again, wow everybody or show off. That's not the point. But they always ask me, how do I have them say yes? And so I said, okay, you know what? I've kind of figured out, I guess, you know, I'll share with you guys, you know, the secret in terms of, let me put it together in one kind of simple sentence. And I share with everybody on Saturday. And it's the first time I actually shared it. And so the secret is this, and take how you want to take it, guys. Okay, so this is how you really need to look at it. If you really, truly don't care, if you really don't care whether or not your patient accepts the $1,000 treatment plan or the $50,000 treatment plan, if it really makes no difference to you financially, and somehow you're able to convey that with your body language or with your words, and you just put out there, yeah, Mrs. Jones, you know what? At the end of the day, you do whatever you want to do. Like it doesn't matter to me. But this is what I believe. This is what makes sense to me. But you know what? Hey, you want to go the other way? I'll do it. And if they truly know that you don't care about the cost of it, they can go ahead and have their second or third opinions from other places. But guess what, guys? There's other places they're going to be making the sales pitch. They're going to be having that case presentation. So what happens, whether or not the patient's going to come back in a week or two or come back in 2 years, because they understand that you've put the money as second and them first, you won that patient over. That's the secret. If you somehow understand how to put it together and understand the art of doing it, then you'll have 95% case acceptance over and over and over again. It doesn't matter what that number is or what you're doing. And one last final thought before I finish off with what we're doing next with COVID. So the final thought is principle of reciprocity. So what this is the need to want to give somebody back when something is received. So there's two rules. The first rule is always be the first to give. The second rule is you have to be genuine. Give without expecting anything in return. For example, Mrs. Jones, you take care of 3 fillings for her. You go to the front desk and you say, you know what, just charge her for 2. So the front desk tells Mrs. Jones, you know what, Dr. Kwek took off $200 off the bill. So what happens? Next thing you know, I get some muffins, or I get some baked cookies, or I get some wine or whatever. And even though all these years I was talking to Mrs. Jones about crowns because, you know, she's got a lot of heavily restored teeth, guess what? A year later, she'll be like, you know what, let's just take care of one of those things you talked about, those crowns. And this is going to happen over and over and over again. Why? Because of this principle. Because you gave first and you were genuine about giving. I know it's tough to be able to kind of let go of income or revenue. But guys, you know what? It's going to come back to you 10, 100-fold, to the point where you have nowhere to put the patients. So let's talk about staff. It's the same thing. With your staff, you have to thank them first. And I know it's a little bit strange because a lot of us, we expect our staff to give us first before we give back. But guys, give first, thank them first. Thank them. Just send them texts here and there. Call them, say, hey, how you doing? Like, I thank you for everything you've done for me. The odd time, you know what? Give them gift cards, give them a bottle of wine. Bring lunches in for them, or take them out for dinner or drinks the odd time. Maybe odd time, take them out to convention. And if you're going to give your staff a bonus or a raise, do it before they ask. Because what happens, guys, is that when you do things first, all of a sudden your staff will elevate their game to a whole different level. You'd be surprised at what people do for you when you give and when you actually put that principle of reciprocity to action. All right, let's talk about the next step. What do we do now? We talk about standing out. Now's the time we need to stand out for ourselves and our practices, to our team, our patients in the community. Right? We need to stand out. We need to stay ahead of the curve. Before COVID, this is what we had. We had our practices. We're running it a certain way. We're streamlining everything. We knew how everything worked in and out. Right? But COVID hit, and guess what? Things are different. The terrain is different. So how do we navigate now with this new terrain? We're unprepared, right? When we're unprepared, guess what, guys? We're all panicking. We don't know what to do. We're waiting around for our college to tell us what's next. And then once our college gives us answers, guess what? We're all going to jump. We're all going to react. And it's going to be utter chaos because we're all going to be doing things all at the same time. But instead of being unprepared, I'm saying prepare. Prepare for the road ahead. Prepare to carve out your own path now while you can. So how do we prepare? Let's talk about a couple things. Let's be proactive. Number one, let's talk about getting PPE. I know it's tough to get PPE. You know what? It's hard. We call our reps every single day, go online, find different ways of getting it. And you know what? It is out there, but you have to keep trying 3, 4, 5 times a day. And you know what? Even still, some of us may never get it. But if not, that's okay. There are other ways of being proactive. Look at your offices. Go to your offices. Look at the things that we need to do now to be prepared. For example, patients that come to your office, they're going to be coming and there's going to be a little bit of a different environment. Right now with emergency treatment, most patients, they're not in the waiting room. Nobody's in the waiting room. But let's say patients come back for more routine care. Guess what? You have to make it look like you actually are also aware of social distancing. So be prepared. Look at that. Take the time to move things out of the office. Be ahead of time. Things like air purification. Whether or not you want to buy it right now or not, is it great for your staff? Is it great for your patients? You know what? It's based on what you believe makes the most sense. Do you have to get it now? You don't have to. If you want to think about getting it and you're not sure if you want to invest the money, at least price it out. At least find out how long it'll take to get here. So at least you've taken and done your homework. So do your homework now by being proactive. Things like plexiglass barriers. Do we have to get these? No, we don't. But what do you think you want for your practice? How long will it take to have someone implement this or install this in your office? Do your homework ahead of time. Even things like dispensers. Just do your homework, guys. Stuff like rubber dam. We're probably using rubber dam a lot. Stock up on it. Stock up on things like this, like PureVac. It's all these little things that we have to look at, and maybe we should order things ahead of time so we're not panicking, we're not reacting, and we're not waiting like the rest of everybody else, and all of a sudden there's a back order of like 2, 3, 4 months. Get it now. It's funny, in my basement, a couple weeks ago, I went to take a look at inventory because I never really check it. I had no idea we had 8 different boxes of gloves, 8 different brands. And I thought, this is crazy. I mean, how did I not know? You know what? I don't really oversee this stuff. This is not something I do. But what we did was I said, okay, we're getting rid of 6 of them. We're keeping only 2 brands. We want to streamline our products because when we streamline the products, guess what? I want to have the same quantity, but in fewer products, which means that I can order a bulk of fewer things, which means I can save because I'm ordering more of fewer items, right? So that's how you can save on cutting costs. But again, remember how I talked about my overhead is 50% higher than the average? Well, this is probably one of the reasons why. So I'm not so focused on it, but I had the time at the office because I was looking at things now. So I'm preparing, I'm being proactive. So take a look at your inventory and maybe do the same thing, guys. We have to look at things from a patient's perspective, okay? We have to look at things from their eyes because it's gonna be very different when they start coming into your offices. Even though we see our offices day in, day out, we look at things the same way. We need to look at things from their perspective and start to clear the clutter. They want to see things are minimized. They want to see things are clean and sterile. Look in their eyes. Look from their perspective. Look at your walls. Look at your doors. Maybe you need a new coat of paint. Take the time now to do things. Be proactive so you're not waiting till after the fact. We talk about learning. You know what, guys? I know we're exhausted from webinars and something like that. It's tiring. I get it. But you know what? Now's the time to learn. You have so much free stuff all the time. You're never gonna get free courses again after COVID. A great friend of mine, Mr. Vic Jindal, call him doctor now. Mr. Vic Jindal did an amazing talk for Dentist by Serrano's, The Death of Dentistry. And tomorrow, great friend, business partner, Dr. Jeff Sumner is speaking tomorrow, the next evolution of digital dentistry. And we have webinars from Dentist by Serrano all the time, fantastic. And then what we're doing with Dentistry Academy, a month worth of CE that we're providing all month long. But learn while you can. And if you're not gonna do this, guys, learn at your offices. So go to your office and actually look at your practice management software. Look at your CAD/CAM software if you have it. Look at your digital radiography software. Understand the capabilities and the efficiencies of it. For example, a couple weeks ago, I wanted to find out how to actually be more efficient with my note writing. So I learned additional shortcuts. So now I can actually save an additional 15, 20 seconds of time per note. Again, those 15, 20 seconds over the course of a day, it really adds up. So take the time to figure out and learn while you can. Lead your team, lead your community, connect with them, right? Are you connecting with your team members? I text them, I call them, message them all the time just to check in with them. Every Sunday at 1 p.m. we have our Zoom social hour. We check in, we say, hey guys, how you doing? We find out what's going on in their lives. We talk about a little bit of what's happening in the office, but we know that, or they know that we have their backs and they have that confidence that we're leading the team. And they feel like, okay, this is great. You know, I feel like they know exactly what's happening. They're on top of things. Guys, do the same thing. Reach out to your team members. And with regards to the community or your patients, do the same thing. Send emails out to your patients. Let them know what's happening. Whether or not you're open for emergencies or not, that's okay, but let them know. And as a team, let the community know that we're still together. And it shows that you're united and you're actually leading the community and you're showing your presence in the community. Things like social media. Try to be on social media. And I'm sure that a lot of people are talking about why it's so effective. Honestly, guys, I just started this a couple weeks ago, but I'm using it to its greatest advantage. I'm showing the community that, you know, we have the PPE, we have things like purification, so that when you show the community that you're at the forefront of things, they'll look at your office as being ahead of the curve. And that's the goal. So try to do this ahead of time while you can. Because when you lead your team and lead your community and you understand the value of building friendships and you understand the principle of reciprocity, guess what? When you lead, you have a following. And that's the point. Now's the time to give, right? Giving is free. Guys, especially now, we have all the time in the world. Give to your family, give to your staff, give to the community. Give your leadership, give your knowledge to your teammates. Give to the younger generation of dentists who are struggling, who are stressed out right now. Give them support. Give words of encouragement, appreciation. These are all free, guys. And give without expecting anything in return. But guess what? When we give, we feel way better about ourselves. But at some point down the road, guess what? When we need things, someone's going to be there to give back. The word collaborate, it's not really a word we use in dentistry, right? We're all used to this. We're all used to competition. And it's good to have healthy competition, especially pre-COVID. This is what we had all the time. Whether or not you're in rural areas or whether or not you're in dense areas like Toronto or Vancouver or anywhere in between. It's okay to compete. But right now with COVID, we can't think about this. We need to think about collaborating. We need to think about working together. Because if we work together, which we all as a big group we are, and I find this fantastic, when we all work together, hopefully at the end of the day, we're moving forward in one direction. That's the goal. So finally, we talk about adapting. So how are we going to adapt? Once again, how do we think? Right now, we're worried about this because this little bugger's kind of, affected us all, or infected us all. And every week or a couple times a week, we get these updates from our college. And do we really know what's going on next? Not really, we don't, right? We're just speculating, we're still waiting. And this is what we have at our offices. We have this type of schedule, whether or not we have 1 or 2 hygiene columns on the right, your dental column on the left. And we think, how are we supposed to be able to check our hygiene patients? How are we supposed to be able to take on and off PPE? It doesn't make any sense. It's going to cost us so much money. The workflow is going to be ridiculous. How do we do it? And we all worry. This is the average practice numbers. We all worry that we're never going to be able to reproduce these numbers. Not with all these rules we're talking about. Not about, if we have to space our patients a couple hours apart. How are we going to do this? So how should we think? So we need to adapt, guys. We need to figure out a different kind of workflow. So what I'm going to show you guys next, again, this is not at all what I'm saying should be done. I'm just saying that this, if you understand how to think differently, and I'm trying to open your eyes of looking at things differently from a different angle. And when you understand the concept of looking at things from a different perspective, and you understand the concept of time, this is just my one simple rendition based on the parameters that are kind of set out right in front of us that we really don't know anything about yet. But just, again, it's just to open your eyes to a different way of looking at things, okay? So with a new workflow, we're talking about combining appointments. We talked about combining procedures. We talked about if you do multiple fill-ins at the same time, it takes you less time. Great. So now let's talk about, and we had a question earlier, but let's talk about combining not just fillings. Let's combine the root canal on the 1/6 with extraction on the 4/7. Let's do a couple fillings in the upper left too. When you combine multiple procedures at the same time, is it ideal? Not ideal. It's not really how we want to treat patients, but it's something that we might have to do. But the goal is you want to maximize that patient in your chair. But when you have that patient coming in for one appointment, or very few appointments, but larger appointments, you're actually decreasing the time that it'll take to do multiple things at the same time. Right? You're minimizing the number of appointments in the day, you're minimizing the number of the patient's appointments, but you're maximizing the production because you're using time to your advantage. This is one of those times that, it's not something that we all try to push on everybody, but this is sometimes you may want to think about same-day dentistry. I know you're not all going to think about all this, go out and start buying, scanners and mills and the whole bit. Like, that's not the point. Can you pay it off in 4 years? Absolutely. It's one of those things that doesn't make sense to buy it now, to take the next month, because we're probably not going to go back to the next month. Does it make sense to buy it to figure out how to use the workflow while we're waiting anyways? I mean, that's an option. I'm not saying go out and buy machines now, guys. That's not the point. But same-day dentistry is starting to make more sense based on the current parameters of COVID, because you want to be able to maximize or minimize the patient's time in your chair and maximize your productivity. Another way I want to talk about it is when you combine appointments, it's not just combining dental appointments. It's combining the dental procedures with the hygiene procedure at the same time. So let me show you a possible way of looking at things. Let's say you have 4 operatories. The dentist is in purple, the hygiene is in pink. And you have one dentist and one hygienist here. So the idea is this. Let's say in Op 1. You do your procedures, whether or not you're doing a couple fillings with an endo or whatever have you. And at the end of it all, you do your hygiene check with that patient, and the hygienist comes and follows you back into that same operatory. Okay? So that way you're keeping that patient there. And then you take your PPE off, and then you move to Op 2. And now you put new PPE on for the next patient. Now you basically check that recall patient in that same operatory, plus you're basically working on the previous treatment plan that was recommended for that patient before. And you can basically, if the patient needs more treatment, then you book another appointment, right? So basically you're going from one op to another op. You're only changing PPE for the sake of actually treating the patient. You're not having to worry about checking hygiene in a different operatory. Let's say you go back to Op 1 here, and let's say it's just you, and there's no hygiene appointment that's tagged onto it. So what you do is after you do the crown and the endo all in one appointment, you're actually doing the recall and taking the exam and the x-rays all at the same time. And so what happens, because you've done the recall exam, let's say the patient does not need another restorative appointment. Guess what? They come for an appointment like this, where it's just scaling only. So you can put that in your typical day. You don't have to check the patient. Why? Because you already did. Or if you actually combine it with restorative treatment, you tie it in at the same time. Again, I'm showing you here that whether or not we need a couple hours in between patients for the aerosols to settle, I don't know. But this is just one little simple rendition of how it could possibly work. So we talk about combining appointments. Unfortunately, we probably have to expand hours. We probably have to add additional days or maybe evenings. And if you led your team properly, if you actually created the proper relationships and friendships with your staff, guess what? They'll be more than happy to come back and help you out and help themselves out too, because they want to be working too. Which means you probably have to have hygiene only days. So in another day, it might look like this, where you have 2 hygienists working in 4 different operatories. Whether or not it has to be staggered, again, I don't know, guys. I'm just throwing out something that, if we have to change the parameters, this is a different way of looking at things. So as a dentist, we're doing hygiene checks, but guess what? We're not having to worry about putting gowns on or N95s on. We don't have to worry about wasting PPE. But what can we also be doing at the same time? This is the words that everybody always talks about nowadays. It's virtual consults. So just imagine for a second that you actually are able to have a consult with a new patient. You can see them online and they see you the way you normally are. Okay, you're not fully gowned up, you're not having an N95 mask on, they see you as a normal human being. And so you can actually have that consult ahead of time, and so they'll feel comfortable coming in when they meet you for the first time. Or imagine doing consults for emergencies. You can actually kind of triage an emergency so you can book that patient in knowing pretty much how much time you need for that emergency. Or to take it one step further, remember we talked about the conversations you have with larger treatment cases that you want to be able to provide, whether or not you want to talk about crowns or implants or whatever. Just imagine having that virtual conversation with your patient. So instead of booking chair time, you do it during one of these days where you're not actually practicing dentistry. So it takes the time to its greatest advantage. So we talk about this. How are we going to be able to make $850 a year using this new model? Well, you know what? If you use this type of model, you're not going to make $850. You're actually going to make more. If you do the numbers don't lie. But with this model, you actually make more, but you probably have to open your hours more. You have to probably work more, stagger the hours. Your staff, if you have different teams, you know what? You're probably not paying them more, but you're just shifting the times. So if you understand how to maximize time and understand how to use time to its greatest advantage, then you understand this, guys. That's the point. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate your time. For those of you who haven't connected with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram under Dr. Miyen Kwek. Please feel free to reach out to me, email me anytime. And for those of you who don't know the guys behind the faces behind the mask, this is myself on the right, Dr. Hisham Shurgan in the middle, Dr. Jeff Sumner on the left, and we're the faces behind Dentistry Academy. Please visit our website and please connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram. And for those of you who don't know, right now we're creating or doing this Dental Fast Track 2020. And what we've done, we put a full month of webinars on for all dentists, but the goal is to be able to help the new grads, the 4th year students who've been kind of robbed from the last few months of learning. So guys, thanks so much for everything, and hope you guys took something from this today.
Thank you, Dr. Kwek. So here's a couple of comments. Thank you, Miyen. Always good to hear. I've been doing things so similar to you, but I've been doing it for 37 years now. Take care. And then we have a question here. When you say staggering times for appointments, can you repeat the part? My connection cut out. Oh, so for the staggering part of the appointments.
Which part was that? Was with just the last appointments there? Okay, I think it's was someone related to hygiene appointments or related to?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Can you put someone on? Can someone reach out and maybe even ask the question?
Hygiene appointments.
Oh, okay. So basically, when I was showing that graph, I was showing that I don't know whether or not hygienists will have to work out of one operatory. And let's just say, for example, actually, you know what? Let me go back to that slide. So over here, I don't know whether or not you're going to have to wait between patients. And so instead of having to wait, let the hygienist use a second operatory. So we go from hygiene 1 here, we'll go from 1 op to the next. So basically you're staggering it along the way as the day goes on. So you're actually giving that 1 operatory a little bit of room for breathing, or let's just say for aerosol settling. And again, I don't know whether or not what the rule is, whether or not it has to be done or not, but it's just an option based on what the current possible parameters could be. So I wanted to show that if you had to wait, this is one way of making things work.
Perfect. Okay. We are considering, since we have 4 dentists practicing, having 1 doctor be the recall only dentist each day and having hygienists work out of 2 operatories to do wait times. Does that make sense to you?
Sorry, I have the hygiene 2 operatories to do wait times. What does that mean?
I'll repeat the question. We are considering, since we have 4 dentists practice, having 1 dentist be the recall dentist each day and having hygiene work of 2 operatories to do wait times. Does that make sense to you?
If I think I understand what you're saying, you know what, I think with larger practices, I mean, like my own, like we have like 3 or 4 docs at the same time. You have to create a new workflow. I think that, yes, what you're saying, that's a smart way of doing things, because that way your 1 dentist doesn't have to keep taking on and off PPE, which is fantastic. And I think that if your hygiene, I don't understand the wait time part, but I think that you have to, I think with multiple clinicians all at the same time, especially with more docs, this is where you have to take advantage of using the extra days and evenings and have different teams working at different times. And that's how it's going to work. I think the practices who have really, let's say pre-COVID, if you actually have a large practice and you've already used your morning till night times and you also open weekends, those are the ones that are probably going to struggle the most, I think, because it's hard to be able to create it based on the current parameters. But hopefully we're all wrong. Hopefully they'll say, okay, guys, you know what, go back and you can just bring patients in every, like, every 10, 15 minutes, you can bring the next patient in. I don't know. But based on the current parameters, if it's 2-3 hours between with aerosols, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but hopefully, yeah. But I think that to answer your question, I think that what you're doing does make sense. That's a smart way of doing it, with having 1 dentist do recalls and having hygiene in a couple different operatories. That does make sense.
Okay, and they just added to that question to allow an operatory to rest between patients, depending on how long they have to leave the operatory empty, which
For sure. I mean, if you have the operatory, it's fantastic. I mean, that's what you need to do, right? And I think with hygiene now, there's probably not going to be aerosols, so you can probably not have to worry about that. It'll probably just be scale only. But I think based on the parameters, I think once the parameters come out, I will know what I will do for my office, and I would know what would make sense for a lot of offices. So I think once the parameters come out, if you guys want to reach out to me, I'll tell you what I think makes the most sense, because it's all about understanding how to manage your time efficiently, and how to stagger things and how to use it to your greatest advantage.
Perfect. Just some kudos here from Dr. Sumner. Great job, Miyen, and Dr. Haddock. Thank you, Dr. Kwek. This is a fantastic lecture on productivity and efficiency. Thank you again.
Great, thanks, guys.
All right, so I don't have any more questions here. Oh, here, Dr. Luca. Thank you, Miyen. That was great. Okay. All right, so we can end the session now. So Dr. Kwek, we just want to say thank you so much on behalf of Dental by Sirona for all, your support and contribution that you've put for these webinars with DS for the live webinars. So we're very thankful and appreciative for that. More kudos coming in. Thank you so much. Needed positivity. Thank you. I agree with you. Dr. Kwek, love it. So many great ideas to play. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. And guys, yeah, if you guys like, please reach out to me anytime. Okay, whether or not it's our academy or whether or not it's me personally, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you guys out and share everything. That's all we want to do. We want to work together. We want to collaborate. We want to share. We all want to grow. We all want to get out of this together.